Hello and welcome to another episode of Cardboard Alchemy Live. I am Peter Vaughan. We are here on a Friday, or whenever you're watching this. It could be any time. You can play games at any time. You can talk about game design development anytime. You can ask questions, and we'll even answer later. So it's all good. Mark is here. A couple people are here, and Mark says, "Hello, Peter and Rosie," but I don't have Rosie with me today. I do have a picture of Rosie. Rosie is at the UK Games Expo, and we are not, which there's a certain level of FOMO that comes with that. I wish I was there, but at the same time, I was just at a convention. There'll be more conventions, and I could still play games this weekend, as could you. So I want to hear, about what you're going to play, what you're up to, what is on the agenda. Hello, Stephanie. Speaking of game conventions, I just saw Stephanie at a game convention. She came to KublaCon, which was very nice. And that was a fun visit. We actually had at KublaCon, which is where I was last weekend, I was with Chris Strain on our team and Luke Laurie, who's soon to be on our team. It's kind of the Luke Laurie, it's like his home base con. Mine too. It's West Coast. So we've been going for years. I actually have only missed KublaCon to go to UK Games Expo, so I wish they were a little bit further apart. But it is what it is. You got to make tough choices. So, but I did say I have pictures of Rosie. I'm gonna lead with. Before I get to that, I have to acknowledge this comment that Mark is playing game 200 of Andromeda's Edge. That is amazing, Mark. That is absolutely awesome. And we did play Andromeda's Edge at KublaCon. We played games of Andromeda's Edge Genesis. I can't wait to share that with you. We played a lot of games of Whisperwood, actually. And I'm going to talk more about Whisperwood because it is definitely we played so much Whisperwood, and it's going to be I think it's going to be amazing. I can't wait to tell everybody more about it. It's going to be coming from Cardboard Alchemy. Hopefully, I would hope that it can crowdfund next year. But we have a lot to do, but it's exciting. It's very exciting. I don't know that it's as exciting as 200 games of Andromeda's Edge, though. We have a note from Greg. I'm playing Arc Nova next in the Dogpatch Games Comp League, and I'm teaching Andromeda's Edge at International Tabletop Day in Oakland. That's awesome. Appreciate that very much. And Ibby is saying, can we see the whole of your t-shirt? Yeah, I'll take that comment off so you can see this is the Flamecraft Crest, which is a shirt that we're going to be offering very soon. We just had to get through this little Kickstarter thing for duels. And we have to print this baby. But then we're going to be on it. Let's see. What I was going to say is I do have a picture of Rosie. So if she's watching later, she can find out that she is featured. Let's talk about UK Games Expo. Let's talk about the first thing that happened at UK Games Expo, much to the chagrin of designer Peter C. Hayward, who did not realize this was going to happen before the show. But it happened on Thursday before the show started, and this is what happened. Everyone ready? Drum roll, please. It is that Critter Kitchen won the award for Best Family Game at UK Games Expo. Here is Rosie with that trophy, accepted on behalf of the designers. She was very excited. Also, Lucky Duck Games and Goliath were there to accept the award as well. This is extremely exciting for this game. It's great to win awards. One of the topics I have today is I want to ask anyone, does seeing an award on a box or seeing an accolade ever get you a little bit more interested in that game? I have a couple of examples of where it has swayed me. I have some examples where it hasn't swayed me. But this is really exciting for Critter Kitchen. I think it's a great game and it deserves recognition. And with this award, I think more retailers and more people are going to check it out. I mean, yeah, this is a great comment. Awards do nothing for some people, and I get that. I have seen it a couple times on a box where I'll give you a good example of a game that I'll take Rosie away for just a second. I'll give you an example of, there was a game that I made with Brad called Letter Tycoon, and Letter Tycoon won Mensa. Um, it was a great award to win because it's a brainy type of award and it's a brainy type of game. And I think that seeing that on the box helped that game do well in retail. I actually don't know why Breaking Games, if you're listening, I don't know why you took Mensa off the box. I think it actually helped that game. The other one that we're talking about doing is for Critter Kitchen. Also, we might put the Dice Tower Seal of Excellence and the Origins Award, just because it's great to see that people appreciate the game. Yep. Well, Dice Tower is always honest with us, so I'm going to post this comment. If you're watching, Dice Tower doesn't sway some people. I get it. That's fine. I like seeing, I guess I just like seeing any accolade. I do sometimes think they're not going to move the needle for me, but I do like seeing it on the box. We could put a lot of accolades on Flamecraft, but it might cover like a lot of the box. So we'll have to see if we put anything on that box. Anyway, it's exciting, though, to win, to be recognized for the Family Game of the Year. And I hope that does well for that game. I think it is hot already. There are people coming out of the first print run saying, I just tried this at a convention. I can't wait to play it. I just played this with some friends. I can't wait to get my own copy. So I think that it's going to be heating up. We're going to take Critter Kitchen to Gen Con, and it's going to be sort of, we're going to have Alex Cutler there, the designer, one of the co-designers, and we're going to have tons of events with it, and we're going to do some fun things with that game. And I think it's its first big show, other than it is going to be at UK Games Expo. So UK Games Expo is its first big show, and I think it should sell out given the award. But then in the first domestic big show is Gen Con for that game. Here's a good point that was brought up. Don't cover up any Flamecraft art. No, we're not going to cover up the art. The one thing about the awards that we have done is they can be on the outside packaging. When you rip the package off, then you don't have it anymore. But it might be also a key spot. Usually we have to put the award on the front of the box because the back of the box just gets so covered in and everything. I mean, you have to, the back of the box is trying to do all the work of showing you this art and this component and this thing and this mechanism and this text. And it has a lot of work to do. I hope both CK and FC Duels are in the Hot Games room at the BGG Con this year. Now that's very interesting because Critter Kitchen could be there. It might be a little bit late in its cycle because, of course, it's hot now, and I don't know if it'll still be hot by the end of the year. But I think Flamecraft Duels is, it could actually be there. We'd have to deliver. We have to deliver before BGG Con, which might be possible. Anyway, so I have one more picture of Rosie, and then we'll move on to other topics. But here's another. Let's see if here's another fun picture of Rosie, and this has to do with a picture that she took during our finale. Here, I'll bring it up bigger. Our Critter Kitchen, our Flamecraft Duels finale involved like a big moment of unlocking everything, and we had these plush, and she was taking a picture in one of our streams of this, and so during Duels she took this picture, and we all really liked it in Discord, so we decided to frame it or just take the snapshot, and I hope she's okay with that. She's very happy to hug all of the plush. I would be too. Speaking of that, the Pledge Manager goes live next week. We were trying to get it for today. I will say that we didn't count on the fact that Backer Kit needs you to wait 2 weeks, but that's fine. We're going to go next week, and we'll have all the plush in there, and we'll have all the other, we'll have the fun goodies if you want to add an art book or more stickers or coasters or whatever you want to add. Here's a good question. Will Critter Kitchen be available in the Cardboard Alchemy online shop soon? And that is a yes. We are working on that next. One of the things about what we do with the extras that we have on Kickstarter is we put them in our online shops. We have a US shop and we have a UK shop. We put basically everything from the original campaign that's extra Not always at the same price, not always at the same shipping, but we try and make sure that that deluxeified goodness is available. We do wait until everyone's gotten their pledge, and I believe the last couple countries are still getting Critter Kitchen because it takes a while to get it to South Africa, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Vietnam. It just takes a while to get diverse to various places, and we wait till everyone's gotten who backed it has gotten their copy, and that we've taken care of a bulk of replacements and we know how many copies we have left. And then, yes, we did order some extra merch, by the way, so that we do have tote bags. I did run into people at KublaCon who said, I need that tote bag because I had a Critter Kitchen tote bag with me. And I think that is one of the unsung heroes of that campaign. If you haven't seen the tote bag, you need to check out the store when that goes live, possibly in early July. That tote bag holds like an Andromeda's Edge and a Critter Kitchen Deluxe. I mean, it's a giant tote, very sturdy, and also doubles as grocery bag holder. Okay, we got tons of questions, so there's lots of things to talk about. Looking forward to the pledge manager, and I know some people who would like to late pledge too. We are going to have late pledge for Flamecraft Duels if you did not get a chance to back this. And I did run into people at KublaCon who this was an interesting time at KublaCon because we had a Whisperwood game on the table, and then I had this on a little small table, and I heard tons of people say, I've never even heard of Flamecraft. I have no idea what this is. And I said, oh, let me tell you about this cute world of tiny dragons. And now there's this small game, and now there's an expansion. It was really fun having, like, I'd say 1 out of every 3 or 4 people had no idea what these dragons were. And then some people did know what they were and had no idea there was a new game. So it was just discovery. So I do know that some people want to get in on the late pledging, especially too. I know people are going to find Rosie at UK Games Expo and get a late pledge card to join in so that we could get as many people into this universe as possible. This thing is going to be a lot of fun. Speaking of that, so on this little table that Flamecraft Duels was playing on, people just played it nonstop. I went over, I explained to some people who needed it, but most people were reading out of the rule book. They were doing fine. There was people who came back to play fancy mode or fountain mode. There were people who got in line to play duels. I was in shock. There was one night, Saturday night, where I had left it out, went to dinner, came back. People were still playing it. And I said, I'll come back in like half an hour or something and get the copy. People were still playing it at 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11, 11:30, midnight, 12:30. I said, listen, I need to take this copy back. It was amazing. It was amazing to see that many people really get into duels. It's very addictive and very fast. So as far as a con game goes, unlike, say, Andromeda's Edge, which I happen to love and did play at KublaCon, it takes a lot longer to commit to an Andromeda's Edge game. And then you miss other games at a con. So you sometimes feel like, oh, I want to get this big game, but it'll cost me 3 other games or my lunch or a consistent dinner or time with friends or whatever it'll cost you. But as far as duels goes, you could get a game in and then quickly go do something else. It's a very good con game. So that's nice. There's cute game awards being given already. That's awesome. Flamecraft gladly accepts. We're just going to put that. We just need a cozy. We'll have to talk to Rosie about cozy board game awards. We need a lot of pledges to flood the Spiel Foundation. That is correct. That is something that we're going to feature on the Pledge Manager, which is there's a chance not only to buy duels for yourself, but also to donate a copy to the Spiel Foundation for only $10. We talked about that. We brought on Stephen Conway from the Spiel. We did Dragon Trivia with Stephen, and we unlocked tons of copies. So I'm really excited already about how many copies are going to go to charity for when we print Flamecraft Duels. I have a fun story about that, which is that we're getting the files ready for the printer for Flamecraft Duels. And retailers want it, and there's copies for the Spiel, and there's copies for backers, and there's so many people who want a late pledge already that we're anticipating one of the biggest orders that we've ever placed as a company for a product out of the gate. So much so that the manufacturer is telling us, wait a second, we promised we would make this fast, but I don't know how we, if you keep adding to the order, it might be harder. So it's actually kind of an interesting problem when you have, I know this is a nice problem to have, but when you have a bigger order, it actually adds to the complexity. It's one of the reasons why Flamecraft itself took months to fulfill, because so many people wanted it, and then it overwhelms a fulfillment center. So we actually now are trying to be very careful about how we package and how we deal with fulfillment and warehousing and also manufacturing, to make sure that no part of the process gets overwhelmed by the cute dragons. That's a unique issue with these cute dragons. If Rosie wins the Cozy Awards, then CA will be not eligible. Yeah, she's very good about noting on TikTok, by the way, that she is biased when she says I love Flamecraft. She actually, on last week's stream, I don't know if you caught it, she did a top 10 with Box Meeples, and she did not list Cardboard Alchemy games in her top 10 cozy games. For that biased reason alone, she wanted to make sure she did not do that. Being overwhelmed by cute dragons is a problem. In what universe? In what universe, indeed? I mean, we're excited by these dragons. The dragons behind me are actually excited to keep going and go on adventures. So keep your comments coming. Yeah, that was a great stream. I love that. I mean, I did not know that Libby was so into big games, like heavy games. I can't wait to share now Andromeda's Edge expansion content with them, because if Andromeda's Edge is that high on their list, I can't wait to share it with everybody who loves to play that game, because Luke is saying that the content of Genesis is so good to him that he'll never play Andromeda's Edge again without it. I have to agree, actually, so I can't wait to see what other people say. So yeah, that was a really fun stream. I don't have any special guests on this stream, but I have all of you to talk to, and I appreciate all the questions. Oh, this is a fun comment. I think Flamecraft Duels is an instant classic. I bet you could easily get somewhere like Target on board in their shops. That is a very good point, actually. In fact, fun fact is that earlier in the year, Barnes & Noble saw Duels and has already reached out a little just to say, hey, you know what? Where's that going? What are you doing with that game? So it is exciting to find out that retailers these days are more into board games than they've ever been. There are bigger shelf spaces at Target and Barnes & Noble, Walmart, and other places. You see games everywhere now. And I think that it's a testament to how much games like Flamecraft have introduced new people to games. I was at a very interesting talk at KublaCon called The State of the Industry. And it was interesting because it was moderated by one of my friends, Aldo Giazzi, who's been in the business a long time. And he cited all these numbers about how the board game business is going down. There's a downward trend in certain parts of the business and sales and whatnot. And I said, from my perspective, I don't see that downward trend. I see an upward trend of new friends. I feel like all I do is see growth. All I do is see more people who could find out how fun board gaming is. And I keep finding more people who come in and say, I just played Critical Kitchen, I just played Flamecraft. Even ones that say I just played Andromeda's Edge and I didn't realize games could do this and this and this. So I know that there are maybe some stats about sales here or there in certain parts of the market, but I really don't see it myself. I'm obviously biased because I see mostly our own community. I see what Cardboard Alchemy is doing, and obviously we raised a lot of money on Kickstarter. There were 19,000 people saying, "Listen, let's go." So I really, I think to me it feels like there is might just be that certain games are starting to pull the audiences and other games are not. Oh, look at my daughter and I are really excited to go to UK Games tomorrow to meet Rosie and to try Flamecraft Duels. You should definitely, she's got a Flamecraft tournament running. I think that might be tomorrow. And she will have duels nearby, and I believe you can try it while she's running the tournament. So I think that's great. It's really what I found that when people were playing it at KubaCon, they said this delivers. This really feels like a lot of fun. The stacking is fun. The pattern matching is fun. I saw families play it. I saw friends and couples play it. People were absolutely loving that game. People also really loved Whisperwood too. I would love to talk more about Whisperwood. So if I haven't mentioned it on this stream before, it is a design by 3 designers. Brad Brooks, who's the co-founder of Cardboard Alchemy, and then Chris Strain and Aaron McDonald there's a trio of designers that came up with this idea when we said we wanted to turn this golem image that we had from Sergio Chavez into a bag builder. And then we talked to Sergio and said, well, what do you like to draw? And he said cute animals. So what we came up with, what Brad, Chris, and Aaron came up with, is this dark, mysterious land that is gone, that is just murky, and the water and the air are thick, and these ancient golems that are covered in moss and vines and bird nests and whatnot have all shut down. And there was an ancient fight, a magical fight that was a long ago. And you play a druid that is going to restore the water, the earth, and the air to bring back this magical forest. Also, you're going to talk to the ancient golems and you're going to wake them up and learn all of their ancient magic. You're going to gain that magic for yourself. You're going to cast runes at the land. You're going to like cast all these mystical spells. You're going to restore the water and earth and air. And as you do, animals are going to come back. Animals are going to help you. And depending on what animals you put in your bag, you will get a different experience and different powers in the game. There is so much cool stuff happening in Whisperwood. And when we went to KublaCon, we played Whisperwood 9 times in a row. I mean, not in a row, but we did stop once in a while to talk about it. But each time we stopped playing Whisperwood, we were like jonesing to get right back into Whisperwood. We basically ate really fast so that we could go again and go again. And we introduced some other people to Whisperwood as well, who had, just to get early feedback, because it is at a stage where we can still improve it. In fact, it is a very long game, and one of the things we're trying to do is get it to be a slightly shorter game. But also, one of my favorite parts about Whisperwood these days is that as you are playing a druid, Chris, Aaron, and Brad wanted you to have, so there's lots of different animals in the game. There's for Rosie when she watches this, there's frogs in there. There's the frog and a toad, I think. There's raccoons and squirrels, otters, bears, owls, sparrows. There's eagles, cranes. There's fish, and these are all subject to change, but there's foxes and there's moose. There's just like so many different animals that you can play with and add. But one of my favorite parts about it is that you get a familiar at the start of the game that is just your animal. So no one else could draft that animal. And the familiars are so interesting. The very first game I actually got, I didn't realize Chris and Aaron and Brad put this in there, but they put a unicorn in there, and the unicorn did not want to be in a spot with other people. So it was fun because I could send the unicorn different places on the board that I couldn't get to. So I was having a lot of fun. I cannot wait to tell you more about Whisperwood. We are going to have it on TTS this year, so people who want to try Whisperwood can do so in our Discord. We're also going to start taking it to conventions. We're taking it to RageCon. We're taking it to Gen Con. We're going to have it at PAX Unplugged. So there's going to be a lot of places to play Whisperwood. And Greg, who's in our chat, is one of the people who got to test it at KubaCon, and he loved his raccoon. So there are lots of fun animals to have in there. I see that the Whisperwood preview is 4 hours long. Is the whole 4 hours needed? I want to check it out, but I can't devote that much time. Right now, Whisperwood takes a while to teach, like Andromeda's Edge. It's like a 40-minute teach. And then it's also like 40 minutes per player. We are working on getting that lower. So we made the Gen Con sessions large because there's also a setup and tear down. We want a break in between. I don't think it'll take the whole 4 hours, but we didn't want to make it rushed at 2.5 or 3. And we wanted to give it plenty of space. But by the time we get to Gen Con, I actually think we're going to have streamlined Whisperwood into a 2-hour experience. So we may submit a change to the Gen Con events to go down in time. But we may also leave it so we have a breather. But we might put a note on the event or something like that. So Whisperwood, if you haven't heard of it before, that is fine. We haven't talked much about it yet. It's going to be talked about a lot this year. It's a design that we've been working on at Cardboard Alchemy for a bit now, and it's now going to get its moment to come out, and we're going to put a Discord channel. We're going to start sharing the cover. You'll see it at shows. We're going to put it on TTS. You'll get a chance to play it. It is a bag builder, a lot like Orleone or Altiplano. So if you want to practice, you could go find out what those games are like. You can play those and see if you like that style of bag builder. It's like a deck builder, but you choose what you're putting in your bag. And then like Altiplano, you will pull out every token out of your bag before replenishing it with new tokens. So you will see everything that you gained. Orleone works a little differently. You don't see everything. It's like a percentage chance of getting what you've decided to pack your bag with. Whereas in Altiplano and in Whisperwood, everything comes out of the bag. So if you put a magic token in there, if you put a potion in there, if you put an if you put an otter in there, they're all going to come out. It's just what order they're going to come out and, how many times they're going to come out. Will there be a solo mode? I can't say for sure, but I think absolutely. I'm just going to promise that Chris, Aaron, and Brad will make a solo mode for you. I think it lends itself well to the idea that you'll play against the game system. I don't think it should be hard. I mean, I know it'll be a challenge to keep it the same as a multiplayer feel, but I think that it's possible to work on a solo mode. Again, not promising officially for the designers, but as the developer and publisher, I will be pushing them to definitely go down that road. I know Chris has already explored it, so I feel pretty good about saying that it seems like something that we could do. Put an otter in your bag. I mean, as you do. There's so many things to talk about with Whisperwood, but otters are one of the main animals. Probably because Chris likes otters, but you can actually sub out what the main animals are in every game. The otters like to be together. So in Whisperwood, you're trying to not only restore the water, but put otters in pairs next to each other. They're very happy when you do that. So otter plushie, we haven't even thought about what merch might be available for Whisperwood. So I will say that Sergio is planning on doing quite an exploration of animals for Whisperwood. So I'm very excited by that. Anyway, Whisperwood is just one of the games we have coming from Cardboard Alchemy. Very exciting to have a full slate of games coming up. Not only are we going to finish this game, but the next game coming up is Andromeda's Edge Genesis. And so one of the things I'm going to be doing in June is talking more about Genesis, about what's in Genesis. I actually, since we're talking about Whisperwood, I will mention that Luke played a lot of Whisperwood and has already started thinking about a Whisperwood nod in an Andromeda's Edge faction, which is funny because normally in Andromeda's Edge, we have done Easter egg type factions to past games. We haven't ever done an Easter egg to a future game. And I think that's kind of funny that he's thinking about doing that. So we'll see if that happens. This is a nice comment. Cardboard Alchemy is quickly becoming auto-buy from my girlfriend and I. You guys are killing it. I'm so excited for this new game. And now hearing about Genesis. Thank you for saying that. I do enjoy, there's these Facebook posts that go out, and it's always a fun thing when someone says, like, what's a publisher you'll absolutely go for? And I have mine that I like. And so I'm always honored. I never expect it, but then every once in a while you see a Cardboard Alchemy, and it's just like, it makes me feel giddy inside. Like, that's so cool that anyone would say that. And I'm so thankful you see like a lot of, I mean, I would say this too. You see Stonemaier, you see Orange Nebula, people say Roxy. I'm like, yes, 100%. And you see all these companies, and then like just it's honor. It's just absolute honor when somebody says our company. Like that is so cool. Will there be more puzzles for Genesis? Genesis will have a puzzle. Rich Milena is already started on the Genesis puzzle. We are going to have a fun time. Genesis, the campaign is a lot like our Duels campaign in the fact that we are not going to have stretch goals. These two campaigns we're doing this year, since they are existing IPs and smaller campaigns, I say small, and Duels kind of blew us away how big it got. And we did have stretch goals because we couldn't resist ourselves. But these are not supposed to be, these are supposed to be go straight to print with a new thing and just in and out. So Genesis is not going to have like a lot of puzzles, but it is going to have a puzzle because we can't resist. And Rich is excited about what he's crafting for the Andromeda's Edge Genesis puzzle. I can't wait to share it with you. Trash Panda faction. No, actually it's going to be, well, there might be, I don't know what animals Luke might put a nod to in the game, but he's definitely going to have the foresty vibe, I think. Oh, this is nice. Thank you, Addie. What I love about Cardboard Alchemy is how transparent and engaged with their community they are. Not every publisher is like that. So that's why Cardboard Alchemy is an auto pledge for me as well. That is so nice of you to say that. Thank you. I personally feel like that's what I want out of a company, and that's constantly what I'm trying to give back. This is the reason why we're doing Friday streams, because I'm not here to make games in a vacuum. I want to make games for you. I want to find out what you want. We want to hear more about what you like. I hope I get to play with all of you at a convention. I hope I get to play with all of you online. This is what we're doing this for. When I see people, families and couples go play Duels at KublaCon and just like enjoy their weekend, a couple of them walked away with a plush because it was like, here, like I saw kids just like fall in love with those plush, and I was like, you need to take this home because it should be in your bag. And I want to be transparent about whenever we have hard times too. We have delays or we have compromise. Games are not easy. I mean, there are people who rail on us all day long about the trays in our games, and we're trying to do better. We try experimental things at this company because we're trying to push the envelope of what makes a great game, what makes a deluxified game, what makes an artistic game. We care about space on the table. I mean, I know we make a lot of big games, so maybe we don't care enough about space on the table, but we're constantly trying to make sure. Like Andromeda, we actually spent time to make sure the board fit on convention tables. Even though it is a very big game, we made modular sideboards and modular pieces and trays that would hold the buildings and bring them closer to the action. Just like Endeavor, a game that I've always been inspired by, does with card decks. You could just grab the tray and bring it over. That's what I did in Dwellings. But also we're trying to make Duels be portable. I've taken it on an airplane tray table. Now, if that doesn't work, and you find out, oh, like this and that and the other thing could have been improved, we're going to be honest about it, and then we're going to try and do better on the next game because we're constantly trying to improve. Oh, Stephanie says, my son put his new plush on his bed right away. He adores it. That was great. Your son walked away with a crystal dragon. I think it was an excellent choice. Crystal dragons are awesome artisans. Oh, wow, that's awesome. Duels was your first Kickstarter, and it's been an absolute blast to be a part of it. That is also an honor to me. I've been doing Kickstarter since 2015, so this makes it 10 years of doing Kickstarter. And Kickstarter to me is very exciting because it's just, I've said this phrase before, but J.B. Stegmaier once called it like baking cookies, where you invite everyone into your kitchen and everyone's like mixing the batter with you and pointing out what you might want to do with the cookies and like telling you when to take it out of the oven. But it's a very fun experience to have a game come to life on Kickstarter, right? Case in point, even though this set doesn't have to do with backers per se, it was all the enthusiasm. So it does have to do with backers because it was all the enthusiasm that everybody showed for Duels that caused Sandara to start creating new fancy dragons. new art. She'd already finished the art for Duels. She didn't have to do any more art for Duels, but because on a Kickstarter we're giving back, and then the community is giving back, and then the artist is giving back, and the designers are giving back. Manny made a solo mode right before we launched because he was just seeing how much fervor and interest there was for a solo mode. So to me, Kickstarter is the best place for games to get made. Because if you make all that stuff in a vacuum, there might not have been that art, there might not have been that solo mode, there might not have been the dragon lock, there might not have been the wooden holders. It's just magical to see everybody come together. We need to add more plushies to those cookies. That is what gets told in the kitchen all the time here. We're like, we're making games. Hold on a second. Why are we talking about merch and bags and bookmarks and things? But it's also awesome. Speaking of dwellings, is it still a possibility of getting the new mercenaries made? Maybe. I don't work for Breaking Games. I have tried my hardest to make Breaking Games make new expansion content. There's a story that I don't know if I can completely tell, but last summer I went to them with some ideas about making the extra items. To say this in the nicest way, I don't think Breaking Games is ready to listen, to reason about what they have in their hands. I hope they figure it out. I came to them with I thought what was a win-win-win solution about how I could dev the new content and they could publish it, but they wouldn't do shipping friendly rates. And I just thought, well, this is something that I think they are going to have to come to terms with. I understand shipping is a very difficult subject. I have shipped games for 10 years, and sometimes you calculate the numbers and you take a little bit of a loss, and sometimes you calculate the numbers and they're like, oh, that worked out. In no cases has it been, most of the time when I say you do well, it's like we already offer a shipping subsidy, and sometimes you scrape that money back. But it isn't ever, shipping is a crazy thing. I told them that I think they have an audience that if there's reasonable shipping and a reasonable product and a pathway, and if they're transparent with the backers, I think they can make content. I know content costs money, and I think that's one of the things that they're struggling with is how do they don't run Kickstarters. So a lot of times one of the things they're thinking about is they want to make more content, but they don't know how many people are going to take them up on that content. It's another reason why I love Kickstarter is that Kickstarter tells you how many people are interested. You don't have to, you can guess a little bit, but you don't have to guess entirely because someone says, I do want that green plush. I will go for that green plush. You could ask Mike Vanderveen in the Discord about things to do with dwellings. I will say that Mike is like myself. He's a little less hamstrung than me, but he often can't say anything because he's not in charge of whether they make dwellings. But I know he wants to make dwellings. I know I want more dwellings content, and I know Luke Glory wants more dwellings content. So if I can think of a way to convince them, I half jokingly say, and Breaking Games, if you're listening, maybe I could just take over dwellings. I'll buy it and I'll make you some money, and also we'll get all the content out to everybody who wants it. Just saying, maybe we do that someday because I love that game. It's my baby. Dwellings was an idea that I had from KublaCon. I don't know if I've ever told this story, but I was driving back from KublaCon with Luke. Luke, Laurie, and I have gone many years. We've seen our games on the table in prototype form for years, and then they get published. And Dwellings was this kernel of an idea that I had coming out of that show. So another reason why I love shows is that sometimes you run into someone and then come up with an idea. In fact, Flamecraft Duels was an idea born out of a show. So it is great when minds can get together and just think of ideas together. So, Dwellings was this idea that I had that even didn't work when Luke and I first tried it. We tried it. We were going to pitch it to Stonemeyer. It didn't work. We shelved it. It went in the shelf for years. It went in his notebooks as a game he would never figure out. And then 4 years later, eureka, he had the idea that became Dwellings. And he got that idea from a seed of an idea that he thought of for Andromeda's Edge. He shelved Andromeda's Edge, made Dwellings, made Cryo. Actually, made Cryo, made Dwellings. Dwellings released first, then Cryo, then Andromeda's Edge. It's a magical experiment, the whole design process. And it's one of the reasons why I'm super excited that in just a couple streams from now, we're going to have Luke Laurie on full time at Cardboard Alchemy, and he is excited, full of ideas. So you know that it's going to be a fun ride, because I think I'll just be trying to catch up with as many ideas as he wants to see get made. Do you have some of the original ideas from Dwellings that was story mode? I do have all of those ideas, Mark, and someday I'm going to make that game. I am not giving up on any of the games that have been percolating in my head. There's a game I want to make with Scott Rogers. There's a Grimm fairy tale game that I want to make, interactive story that changes what happens in the game depending on what cards you pick. I have so many fun things that I want to do. I have a superhero game that's a deck builder. Personally, I just can't get games finished because I'm trying to make all these other games with this company, but that's okay. I will get there. I'll get them all done. Hey, greetings from UK Games Expo. Love Andromeda's Edge. Thank you for that. Andromeda's Edge is my favorite as well. I love to see. I played it at KupaCon. I'm going to just check right now where its rating is on Board Game Geek, because I'm just curious how we're doing here. Andromeda's Edge on Board Game Geek is rated 272. So it is in the top 300 games of all time. We're trying to push it to the top 100 someday. And to do that, I think we're just going to keep releasing more content so that everyone gets to find out how great Andromeda's Edge is. Every time I play that game, whether I'm winning or losing, I am having an amazing time playing. I think that's one of the secret sauces of Dwellings of Eldervale and of Andromeda's Edge, is that they feel good while you're playing, regardless of if your strategy is working out. I was playing against Chris with some new Genesis content, and I was about a turn or two behind where Chris was like, there's this new thing to compete for called Shrines. And there are these tiles that go out on the board, and Chris was just there each time before I could get there. But I was still loving every second of it. I was playing one of the new factions, which we're going to talk about. And there are, so Ellie's talking about how so many of the Andromeda's Edge factions are Easter eggs, like the Plutonian Empire is a nod to Luke's game, Luke made with Tom Jolly, called the Manhattan Project Energy Empire. So the Plutonians are huge engine builders, but they're also very aggressive because of the nuclear energy, and that's something that is a topic of Manhattan Project Energy Empire, is that you can get nuclear energy or you get wind energy. There's a lot of fun things in that game that Luke kind of did a nod to as he built these factions. Andromeda's Edge is available to play on our Discord, by the way. Also, I believe we're going to be having one of the biggest announcements about Andromeda's Edge to date, and you're going to need to wait though till June or July for me to reveal that one. But it is huge. But right now you could play it on Tabletop Simulator in our Discord, and you could play, I think, most of the 18 factions. There's a mod in one of our Discord channels where you can play the expansion as well. Does Cardboard Alchemy have any plans for releasing a cooperative game? I have some friends that only like playing cooperative, and I'd love a Flamecraft World game that was co-op. Funny that you should mention that. The environment right behind me is a scene from Flamebound, which is the sequel to Flamecraft, and it is, at this time, cooperative. We have tried it as competitive. We like it better as cooperative because we feel like the dragons, when you're in a campsite and you're trying to decide what you should pack, what you should do, how you should go about the next scene of the next adventure, we decided that it's actually more fun if you're cooperating as a team. And we're going to be testing that in our Discord as well. Chris Strain is the developer of that. Manny Vega is the designer, and you will see that in the Cardboard Alchemy Discord. It is cooperative. So we're going to make the challenges that you have to work together with your friends to figure out each one of the chapters. So we are making a cooperative game. Also, I will note that Mission Catastrophe, our very first game, has a cooperative mode. Now, I know Mission Catastrophe is not around anymore, So that doesn't really count then. But it was our first game. So notably, our very first game was cooperative or had a cooperative mode. And we're actually talking about potentially re-releasing that game. I'd love to someday do a poll with interest, but I think what we need to do is update it on TTS, have more people try it, find out if the desire for Mission Catastrophe would be there, because I do really love that game as well. It's short, it's quick, it's punchy, if we got some of the outlier modes reined in, I think that game would continue to be a hit. So that answers that question. Will Mission Catastrophe ever be reprinted? We are thinking about it because, it just never got its shot, but we were a very young company when we started that game, and there wasn't a lot of people who knew about Cardboard Alchemy. And now that there are more people who understand what we can make and high quality components on the art, I think some people might appreciate a very fast 20 to 30 minute beer and pretzels game where you try and push everyone else out of an airlock and get to the right escape pod. It's actually cutthroat. So that's the part of the reason why it didn't go at the time. I think cozy games are a trend. Flamecraft has proved out stronger than our cutthroat game Mission Catastrophe. But that being said, I think when games are quick, when it is just a bunch of laughs, I think it's fine. I think it's like, I'm trying to push you, you're trying to push me. I got to the escape pod first. Let's play again. Like, let's do it again. I'm now the red shirt. You're the captain. There's the engineer over there. Thank you, Ellie. The minis in Mission Catastrophe are very fun. I will say that even though the Dice Tower panned that game because they didn't like how there was a cooperative mode and a competitive mode and a solo mode and a team mode, they did not like that. But Tom Vassell did say they were the coolest minis ever made. I think he was like, because there's a little tiny alien in a big mech suit, and they're very fun. So I mean, Sergio did an amazing job. It does have a solo mode, Mark. Mission Catastrophe had everything. It had 3 different solo modes. You could play against rogue robots, you could play against merchant marauders that come on your ship, and you could play against this mind mold. So basically 3 different challenging ways to play. You could also play teams, 2v2v2 or 3v3, and you could also play completely cooperative, and you could play just everyone for themselves. I mean, I think that's one of the coolest feats ever. That game had every mode in it. But maybe it was trying to do too much. Tom Vassell does not understand fun in modes. Maybe that is true. Yeah, it's like every game has to be one mode. It's very distrustful of multiple modes. He's wrong. Absolutely 100% wrong on Mission Catastrophe. It is very fun. That game... I don't think it's immune to having some edits. One of the problems with, and this is part of the transparency, I'll tell you, we priced it wrong. We put too much deluxification. It came out too expensive, and then stores couldn't sell it. Well, that's one of the things we could fix. We could keep the deluxification that matters and shave off the deluxification that doesn't matter. We can make a standard and a deluxe. We could incorporate parts of the expansion and not make an additional purchase. We can fix those things that were wrong in the first one. The second thing that was wrong was some of the modes led to games that were too long. And like I said, it's very fun when it's punchy, fast, quick, let's go again. So we would take out those modes that were making it too long and just keep it what it does best. So yeah, we're thinking about it, to be honest with you. It is... It's funny that you say, have you played Nemesis? Because Alex from Board Game Co. calls Mission Catastrophe Nemesis Light. And that could be a good thing or a bad thing for people, but I think a fast version of Nemesis is, for some people, that's a go-to game. So because I have played Nemesis and I like Nemesis, but man, you get caught up in rules things and it goes long, and I think that's what we're trying to avoid with Mission Catastrophe if we do it again. So, thank you for this. I added Mission Catastrophe onto my Flamecraft pledge once upon a time, and I had a blast painting the Mission Catastrophe minis. That's fun. And Ellie says Nemesis has much more of a focus on the alien. Mission Catastrophe has more of a focus on the ship falling apart, which is true. Like the fun thing about Mission Catastrophe, also to me, this was also following a little bit of Jamie Stegmaier's. If he ever watches the stream, I take a lot of lessons out of Stonemaier games, and one of them is that Jamie was always trying to make games inclusive of up to 6 players, and I'm very excited when one of our games could pull that off. I was hoping for that for Flamecraft. It didn't quite happen, although I know a lot of people play Flamecraft 6 players. But we managed to pull it off with 2 games, and I am excited about each of those. Mission Catastrophe was the first one. It plays up to 6, which to me is fantastic around the table. And also Critter Kitchen plays 6. So I'm very thrilled that Critter Kitchen, which is still in print and is heating up and is doing great, carries that ball for Cardboard Alchemy right now. But eventually, if we can get Mission Catastrophe back in print, that 6-player mode is a lot of fun. But speaking of which, the ship almost always wins in 6-player because you're trying to figure it out, and every time it's someone's turn, the ship gets damaged. So 6-player means just it's falling apart fast. It's super fast. Oh, look at that. Critter Kitchen is great at 6. I absolutely agree. I like it at 6 and 7. Speaking of the Dice Tower, and I haven't really had a chance to say this about the Dice Tower, they did cover Critter Kitchen, and I think they did a great job. But one of the things they got wrong is that they assume 6-player is slower and longer and bogged down. But it's not the case. If they ever try, and I hope they do, the Critter Kitchen expansion, you take a chef out of everybody's chefs, and therefore it goes with the same amount of meeples that it would if it was at 5 or 4-player. And you get a punchy, fast, simultaneous experience even at 6 and 7 in Critter Kitchen. That's unheard of in strategy games to have a 6 and 7-player game go so fast around the table. Not only that, but the expansion adds the carts. And so I think that it was just a misunderstanding that maybe this was a more bloated, more things to do. You don't have to add the carts. You can play a very fast 6-player game with Critter Kitchen. I feel at higher player counts, you end up having one person dedicate the entire game to repairing the ship, and then they never get to escape. Yeah, I mean, Mission Catastrophe is what Ellie's talking about, which is that if it's 6-player, the slogan that the designer had at the time was, work together to save yourself, right? So that was a fun, that was absolutely like a fun bit about it. The designer was Matt Walters, and Matt has only made that game, but was a big fan of Pandemic and Machikoro. And so it made sort of this blend where you're rolling dice and the engine's being destroyed. The engine gets destroyed on the roll of a 7, which is the most common roll you can get. And so the engine's failing, but you need the engine to work to get out. So it's a game of chicken. Who's going to repair the engine? Like if I repair the engine on my turn, then maybe you'll escape on your turn. So I don't want to repair the engine, but if I don't repair the engine, the ship's going down. So how much do I want to, the trick is to repair the engine, but also to take away your cards or to make it so that you don't know which pod is the right one. So only I know the information that's going to get out. But it is a very tricky thing to pull off, which is why it's a lot of fun. A rules question, sure. Let's do anything. Anything goes on this stream. What rules question do you have? Regarding Andromeda's Edge, can raiders move through empty region if you've laid regions all around it, kind of like a donut? Can they move over the empty space? And the answer is no. Empty spaces in Andromeda's Edge are non-passable. So that actually works similarly to the quasars. The quasars are blockers. Empty spaces are blockers. The exception, of course, being the nebula, which is this empty space with a special marking on it. But in Genesis, we are going to make these new tiles, the shrines I talked about. And if you start a 2 or 3-player game, one of the shrines starts several empty regions away. You can't get there till enough regions have come out, making that a legitimate space. What's your favorite board game night food? That is an interesting one. I know what my favorite foods are, but do I need to change that up for board game night? Because I love Thai food, but that's not necessarily a good board game night food. You know what's funny about foods is when I was a kid and I played board games and video games, I would eat absolute junk food. And so now when I play board games, I am trying to train myself not to want absolute junk food. Like I would personally love a bowl of pretzels and peanut M&Ms and these kind of chips and dip and things. I'm just like, that's what I would love. Snack appetizer table where I can have a little bit of that, a little bit of this drink, and then have more of that, and then get this. So what I'm trying to do to myself these days is put healthier snacks around the table so that I don't do that to myself. Oh, Ellie, thank you so much for joining us for the stream. I really appreciate it. You're not going to miss much. We're going to wrap up soon, and we hope you have a nice weekend. What is your biggest board game pet peeve? Mine is people bending cards in games, which means if I go to your house, I would probably try not to shuffle because I used to play poker, so I like to shuffle. What is a big pet peeve? Let me think about that. I don't have too many of them. I don't mind usually when people are on their phones because I totally get it. I as long as we don't have to go over the rules 10 times. I think one of them could be the big undo. Like it's past your turn. It's somebody else's turn. I think undos are starting to become even more commonplace. I've done it myself. I totally get it. It's like, oh, no. 3 turns ago, I was supposed to get a resource. That's okay sometimes to me, as long as everyone's allowed to the same level. But I don't want to see the whole, like, I have already finished, you have already gone, so-and-so's already gone, and I want to say, I need to take back, I need to do something differently. I didn't want to purchase that module, I want to purchase this module. I'm sorry, but that's a no. But the universe has moved on and cemented reality from when you, and I have wanted to do that, but I'm not going to do that. I don't know if that's a huge pet peeve, though. It's just something that I was thinking a little bit about lately because in Whisperwood, we were all pretty guilty about like missing something and wanting to go back. Because you have to pull on Whisperwood, which I talked about earlier, you pull tokens out of your bag and then you decide where you're going to spend them. And then everyone does that simultaneously. And then you go and you find out how badly that went. A little bit like Critter Kitchen, actually, but you can't take back those moves either. My pet peeve is someone knocking over a full pint of beer over your brand new just punched and open game. Yes, this happened. I'm so sorry to hear that happened. I have a funny story about that, which is that when I was starting to get into the poker trend, a buddy of mine built a poker table. He built it by himself. And I was so in awe of this experience that I was blown away and I wanted to build my own. So I went over to his house. We played poker on his table. The very first night, when I say he built his own table, he had cut the wood, he had done the railing and the padded foam, and he had like padded the center foam. I mean, it was a whole experience to make the poker table. And someone spilled beer all over the inner foam area of the table, and we were all super bummed. It was an accident. But then I immediately went to go back to my design, my budding design for a poker table, and I said, cup holders. That's what we need. And I carved holes in my railing with, I remember I had to buy these cup holders from, boats have removable cup holders that have holes in the bottom so they can drain liquids. So I had to buy cup holders from like a boating site, and I carved holders all around my table because of that beer incident. I drive people nuts though with some of my non-pet peeves. I do let food and drink at the table. I have been known to even let people have Cheeto, whatever you want. I really feel like games are meant to be played, so I don't sleeve games. I let games just have their natural life. In other words, if they're going to get worn, they're going to get worn. I know that that's a very privileged state to be in. I recognize that. I don't have the energy to sleeve every single one of my copies, and I don't want to stress about dust, food, beer. I just don't want to stress about like that preservation. I do know a friend of mine that buys 2 of every copy, one that he never opens and one that he opens and lets anyone do. Again, another state of privilege. I totally understand. But he cares so much about his game collection that he saves up money and he deliberately buys 2 and he never opens the other one. It's a thing. You can do it. I just play them and love them a lot. I do know that my local game store has loved Flamecraft so much that I need to get them a new copy because I think the cards are get pretty worn. So I can see that some games, if you know you're going to do it, you might as well sleeve. But I don't personally sleeve because I guess I don't. I try a little bit of every game, so now no game gets totally abused. 2 of every copy. I do this with shirts. That's fun. Yeah. Uh-oh. Sad story from Axel. A very sad story regarding a big box. I was taking a game from my shelf, and this is all my fault. I decided to take the 2 boxes down and said one at a time, and one did not make it. Ah, Axel, I'm sorry to hear that. That definitely sucks to have that happen. Games. Well, I mean, the funny thing about game boxes, and we struggle with this as makers of game boxes, is that the game boxes, if you think about it, are the containers to hold the rest and keep the rest of the components okay. So sometimes if a game box goes, I consider that, it's done its job, shielding the inner components. I have some boxes that are in need of repair. I don't tend to. Being a board game publisher, I don't tend to request a new box because I know that it eats almost all the profit with the shipping and everything else like that. We still do that for people, by the way, because we care a lot about everyone's happiness with their end product. But to some degree, there's never going to be sometimes boxes are meant to get worn. I do actually, I sleeve partly because I like the feel quality of sleeve cards, plus it makes them mash together. I do actually like that vibe too sometimes. I used to play a lot of poker games with plastic cards, and I do like that feel. So we're also doing plastic cards for duels. I'm so excited. The first time I actually got plastic cards put into any one of our products, and I'm super excited about that for this deluxe copy, so that the cards will be really resilient. Mass shuffling is the entire whole reason to slave. Yes. My copy of Harmonies is very well loved. That's a game I have yet to play. I can't wait to play that one. I've heard a lot of people talk about Harmonies, and then sort of in the same breath as Duels, saying that has sort of a vibe of a similar game. So I want to play it. May need to buy new tiles for Andromeda's Edge eventually. Mark, you don't ever need to buy new tiles for Andromeda's Edge, because I will say this right now. If you play 200 times of Andromeda's Edge, I will get you some new tiles. And since you're on your 200th game today, just hit me up. We'll talk about tiles. You don't have to worry about worn out tiles. That is a level of play that I don't think I've seen on a game myself. So I can understand if it gets a little worn down. Well, all this talk about games is making me want to go play a game. I don't have exact plans for what I'm going to play this weekend, but I hope that in June I will be playing a lot of games with all of you in Discord. I want to play Andromeda's Edge Genesis a lot in June, and I want to play Whisperwood, start playing Whisperwood people. I know Chris is going to want to play Flamebound. We're going to be producing, getting Flamecraft Duels all done. You can play that today. You can go in our Discord and play Flamecraft Duels. You can play Critter Kitchen on Discord and find out what everyone's talking about. UK Games Expo Family Game of the Year. You got to check it out. Also at some local game stores. So, Critter Kitchen is going to be a fun summer for the animals, a fun summer for the dragons. If you're absolutely welcome, Mark. If you have any questions that didn't get answered, because I know there was a lot and I didn't have Rosie's help today. If you have any questions, you could leave them on this YouTube and we'll get to them. Or you could come and talk to us in Facebook. We have an Andromeda's Edge group, a Critter Kitchen group, and a Flamecraft group, of course. Flamecraft group is coming up on, I think it's over 9,000. We're gonna get to, we'll be able to do something exciting when we get to 10,000 people in a Flamecraft Facebook group. We also have our Discord, which I mentioned you can play all the games on, and we have our Kickstarter walls. Basically anywhere you could find us. Hey, just tuned in. Do you have a time frame when you're going to be playtesting the Andromeda's Edge expansion? Yes. We have already started playtesting it in our Discord. There is a channel called, there's a playtest channel. And if you go into that channel, and some Discord members can direct you to that channel, I believe it's kind of at the top. There is a Google form to fill out to become one of our playtesters, which basically says just warning, these games are not final. Please understand these are not done, and we don't pick every single person. Sometimes we pick playtesters based on time zone, or if you've played before, or if you haven't played before. So it's not meant to be, sometimes people are picked in groups or patterns or stuff like that. But we are looking for playtesters all the time to test the new content. So if you want to play test, on the Google form, you could say whether you're interested in Andromeda's Edge or Flamecraft or such, or if you own any of our games. And that sometimes is some of our evaluation. Oh, you've already played Flamecraft? Let's get that person to play the sequel first. Doesn't mean that we don't get everyone to play the sequel. But like if you've already played Andromeda's Edge and you're already coming in with that knowledge, you click that, make that note to us, and then we'll go, okay, let's get you in first because we don't, have to teach the game. And in another day, we'll teach the game to new people who have never played Andromeda's Edge. So we also, I will point out, since we just had a Kickstarter that was like 22 days, we get behind on letting new folks in. And so we also paused our Andromeda's Edge testing, paused our acquisition of new playtesters. But as we get into June, I will be ramping that back up. As soon as we start having Flamebound tests and Whisperwood tests, we'll make a big deal about that. But also Andromeda's Edge Genesis tests, we're going to be going strong on those. Because I want to see I want to see as many permutations as possible. And I also want to see a group of people that get to know it really well and try new strategies, because that is the way that we find out what works and doesn't work. We appreciate all the help testing the games. Axel, Whisperwood. Yes, we're going to make a Whisperwood channel. We'll start talking about Whisperwood. Oh, but Whisperwood did not get all caps. Flamebound. I appreciate all the love for all of our games. All the chat time has been really nice to chat with everybody. Any help for Flamebound solo mode? 100%, because it's going to be a cooperative game, which means I think that it lends itself. I say 100%, and I should put another asterisk on that. I'm not the designer, and Manny can make that decision, but I really think Flamebound is going to be a solo game easily. Hey, look at that. Evan made it in to our chat as well. I love we're getting like superstar designers who have come into the chat. Welcome. I love, we're talking about all sorts of different things, Cardboard Alchemy games, but we'll have to have you on as a guest sometime to talk about game design, because it's a fascinating topic to talk about that. All of our game designers right now are it's a busy time. A lot of our UK Games Expo. So appreciate the fact that you've dialed in, Evan. And I have yet to play I've heard Chris Strain keep talking about one of your games, basically raving about it. It had something to do with pinball, I think. He just won't stop talking about it. So that must have been a sticky game for him. Mark Owen, I got here late. What is Whisperwood? I will just briefly say Whisperwood is a game that we're hoping to crowdfund next year. It is a bag builder coming from Cardboard Alchemy, where you are a druid awakening these ancient golems and learning their powers, casting runes in the forest and bringing back the woods, the air, and the water with the help of friendly animals. And what animals you decide to put in your bag changes your game. You can decide to score lots of different ways by either talking to the golems, restoring the land, becoming close friends with all the animals and scoring with different patterns of animals, or, casting these runes. There's so much in that game. I can't wait to share it with everybody. There's going to be a lot of animals going on. Yeah, the pinball game. That's a crazy production. I like crazy productions. I think that's part of what I get excited about. This was an idea that Brad had, which was, why don't we have a game that opens up? And of course, now this prototype just proved me wrong, but the magnets are getting stronger in this game. But basically, why don't we have this travel box? And that is what we tried doing, because we like to try stuff around here. All right. We can just keep talking about Whisperwood all day long, right? Where's the next one? Megan, joining late, but are you talking about Whisperwood? Yes, you are going to definitely want to watch this stream. I will point it out in Discord as well. This stream covers Whisperwood in a lot more than I've ever covered it. Now, doesn't explain everything about Whisperwood, because we are going to save that for a big reveal. Sergio Chavez is working on the cover. We're going to be exposing more about Whisperwood as we get to Gen Con. I think we're going to have a lot to say about Whisperwood. This is a good question. I could keep going. How robust has the box been for duels? Any broken prototypes so far? And the answer is no. But we have had notes for the publisher, for the manufacturer, specifically about the whole binding, about how just everything about the tokens and the magnets. Like, for example, I just said the magnets are not strong enough. We got the prototype and we were able to say, like, yeah, this needs to be stronger, this needs to be tighter, this needs to be different. And the manufacturer loves that feedback because it's better to discover that now before we go into full-time production. So do we reach the make it out of wood goal? Maybe someday we're going to do that. We talked in our Discord about how someday, if Flamecraft Duels is as popular as we think it might be, there could be a version of Flamecraft Duels that's like a carved wooden box. I would love like Sandara's, like carvings in a box with like, I want to say like ceramic pieces and just like an epic version of Duels. Or I know our Discord has also suggested a giant version of Duels to take the convention. So who knows? I was at KublaCon and saw giant King of Tokyo, which is always a fun game to see really big people rolling like these giant dice. And I'm just like, yeah, that would be fun to have Duels tokens stack up or find some way to do it. The blanket and throw pillows edition. Can you make it out of Whisperwood, though? That is the feat. Yeah, we don't know exactly if we've reached the heart of the Whisperwood yet. We do know that for Whisperwood production, we're going to have to try and do like something a little bit more environmental. We're looking at anything we can do to maybe repurpose, recycle wood. There are some new pieces done by some manufacturers now that do that. Also, I saw the Endeavor Deep Sea tray that was all biodegradable material. So we're going to be trying some new things on Whisperwood as well. Oh, there's so many things to talk about with Whisperwood. I could do a whole stream, and we will this summer talk a lot more about Whisperwood. I can't wait to show things on Whisperwood, so we'll do that. The whole goal of this stream is to go behind the scenes at a board game publisher. So continue to push me to share all the secrets and stuff. I will do so. All right, that's it though. We're gonna go. The next time we'll have Rosie back on the stream to tell us all about how UK Games Expo went, and to make us jealous about all the games that she played over the weekend, because even though I'm going to try and play some, I don't know if I'm going to play as many as she's going to play. So, all right. Cheers, everybody.